everybody, this is James.
Nabil.
And Mikey.
And this is the Movie Pals podcast number 194. Today we're going over Mikey and Nabil's Oscar bowling films. That was assigned to him from me, because I won.
Because he won. I see that you guys can't see it.
Did he win?
His smile is just so big, it's like covering the screen right now. The silent accomplishment.
That's
it's
just
more evil, though.
Just the sickness still leaving my body, so... This one's probably going to come out a little late, followed by our continuing voyage into Star Trek with a review of Star Trek Nemesis. So without further ado, let's get into some mini reviews. So with the Oscar bowling, I won the competition overall. So Mikey and Nabil, quote unquote, had to get like Oscar punishment films. Although I feel like lately we haven't done punishment films in a long time. Although Nabil's might have been kind of.
Spoiler alert, mine wasn't punishment, so...
I didn't feel like mine was punishment either.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec here. So, technically, you guys shouldn't know what you guys reviewed each. I kept it a secret from each other. Not like it mattered, but...
Well, Mikey and I were texting each other, so we know exactly what we saw.
Oh, do you? Okay,
no, we don't. No, I'm just joking.
Okay. I wouldn't mind. I was like, oh, I mean, that's fine, I guess, but it kind of spoils the fun. It's just, like the mystery of all. Although I think last time you might have announced what we were doing before.
Yeah, he was on the pod last time.
I put it on the pod last time.
Yeah. He was like, "Hey,
it's
kind of
nice not knowing though. I'm kind of get excited.
It's kind of cool, right? Like, I wonder what he's watching. What you doing over there? So we're gonna start with Nabil first because he's gonna be mostly guiding the next section because I am getting over a strep throat actually. So let's start with Nabil here with his mini review of 1968's The Lion in Winter.
I'm the greatest power in 1,000 years, and after me comes John.
She'll be here soon, you know.
Who? Mother.
I've only one desire left. She'll see you king.
If you oppose me, I'll strike you any way I can.
You don't think I would let this happen?
You do anything for vengeance against your husband.
So this movie is sitting at a 91% of Rotten Tomatoes. And the synopsis is at 1183 AD, King Henry II's 3 sons all want to inherit the throne, but he won't commit to a choice. When he allows his imprisoned wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine, I don't know if I butchered that or not.
Aquitaine, yeah.
Aquitaine? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Out for a Christmas visit, they all variously plot to force him into a decision. Directed by Anthony Harvey, who did The Dutchman in 1966, They Might Be Giants in 1971, and The Abdication in 1974. This was written by James Goldman, who did Robin and Marion in 1976 and Cyber Bandits in 1995. This was released on October 30th, 1968 on a budget of $4 million, and it grossed $22.3 million. At the time, that's quite good. I think it also is the winner of like 3 Academy Awards on top of that. So this stars Peter O'Toole as Henry II, Katharine Hepburn as Eleanor of Aquitaine, Anthony Hopkins, I believe in his first role ever, as Richard the Lionheart.
First role?
Yeah. I think it is. Or one of his bigger roles. Look it up. I don't know. John Castle as Geoffrey. Nigel Terry as John. Timothy Dalton as Philip II, King of France. Jane Merrow as Elise. And Nigel Stock as Captain William Marshall. So, Nabil, before we start with it as well, do you have any history with The Lion in Winter?
No, I've never heard of the film, to be honest. And I'm familiar with Eleanor of Aquitaine and her story from history, but I did not know what this film was or what it was really based on. I didn't even go and read a synopsis or anything like that. I just, went into it as when I started watching it blind. But it was all new to me.
What did you think of the movie overall then?
Honestly, it was better than I thought it was going to be. It's a very, I like Peter O'Toole. I haven't seen a lot of Katharine Hepburn films, but, I know she was obviously essentially the 50s and 40s, 50s, and 60s Meryl Streep, essentially of our time.
She won the Academy Award for Best Actress in this film.
She did for this film. Peter O'Toole was nominated. I was checking this up, and he was beaten up by some other film about something completely different, different subject. But I have to say, the acting in here was phenomenal. Like, I loved Peter O'Toole in here a lot. Like, I was surprised that I hadn't seen him when he was younger doing, these films. I can't remember the last film I saw him, but he was like in his 30s or 40s. So seeing this, I was like, I forgot how great of an actor he is. And it was pretty solid seeing him there. And Katharine Hepburn was great. To what you were saying too, Anthony Hopkins, I don't know if it was first role or not, but definitely like a big role for him from the 60s. And that was very interesting to see. It was just weird to see him young because I'm so used to seeing, him in gray and older and whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was an interesting story about Eleanor of Aquitaine essentially plotting against with her kids, manipulating her kids, and plotting to find a way to take the throne from her.
Anthony Hopkins. This was his first major film role. So yeah,
this is a major role. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. They all did really well. I think it was just. I was telling my wife, we were watching this together, and I was telling her how
know what to expect. You're like, I don't know.
She was like, I don't know what I'm watching here. I don't know if I like this film, but
I think it was a play at first, I believe.
That would also, it kind of plays out that way, the way they have this, because it's really just set in the castle, the whole film. It's all during Christmas time in this one place. But I remember like watching this and thinking how, even though it's it's made in the 60s, how much I feel that it is set in the past, like set in the 1100s, versus like when you watch a modern day movie, not that they don't have great productions, but you can also kind of feel by watching it that it feels like a modern take on something. So it doesn't have that like sheen of like grossness almost, like the dirt and the mud and the like lived in place. Like the films back then in the 50s and 60s, when you'd see these period pieces, always feel so much more like if there was a camera back then set in the 1100s, this is what it would look like, So I really felt kind of enthralled and feeling that I was back in that place too. So it was great production design. It was, I really enjoyed how this played out.
It won 3 Academy Awards: Best Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Original Score. But like you said, it was nominated for 7
Best
Academy
Picture.
Awards.
Yeah, it was nominated.
Director, actor, costume design, all that stuff. So it's one of those bigger ones overall. So the acting was good. How was Timothy Dalton, by the way? I have not seen this movie.
Oh, you didn't end up watching it? No.
Nope, I've never seen this movie. I'll tell you why I picked it for you afterwards, after you get your thoughts on it. But
Timothy Dalton was young in this film. He was very young. Not that he was bad or anything. It's just he just is not who he is as we've seen him older, especially like the James Bond Timothy Dalton.
20 years away from becoming James Bond still.
Yeah, and so watching him in here, I was like, "Oh man, you can tell he's a kid, And he's got a pretty senior role in it. He's pretty prevalent in the movie because he's kind of the guest of honor there, the King of France, as they're trying to broker him and Henry II are trying to broker a treaty essentially, and so it is interesting to see him there, and they do great acting. But yeah, Timothy Dalton specifically came off. He doesn't have the swagger that he did by the time he became James Bond. We'll say that.
Yeah, he's got that chin though, man.
He does.
Okay. Anything else stand out for you in this one overall?
I think it's definitely a worthy film to watch if you are somebody who likes period films, especially stuff about royal. I mean, it plays almost in the same way as watching any kind of Shakespeare movie or a Shakespeare play in that kind of sense. So, I mean, this is Henry II is essentially or I should say Eleanor of Aquitaine. Her story is kind of branches off of what the inspiration of Robin Hood was, so you can even get some of that if you learn her story about her kids. That's kind of where her kids kind of play into what Robin Hood was about. So, or at least like the king and everything, King Richard. So even learning about that from a historical perspective, I think they do a good job of putting this to screen. So yeah, definitely a worthy watch in my opinion.
Do you think, I don't know, would like Mikey or I like this one, or is this more of a your kind of thing?
No, I don't think any of you guys would actually like this film. I think you might find history interesting, James, but I don't think you'd really care much.
I mean, it just got a 4K re-release on this one on physical disc too. It's you'd have to import it though, but it does work on our players. So just let you know. Yeah. So yeah, I why did you think I chose this though for you then?
Honestly, I thought you chose it because of the fact that it was a royal English essentially period piece, and it's something that I tend to like. I like those kind of British films, especially because it's more it's even though it's royals, it's political intrigue, so those are kind of up my alley. Yeah. So I just assumed that was the reason why.
There's a little bit of everything in this one. I liked it because going with the Oscar theme, it had been nominated for quite a few, so I kind of stuck with that for some of the movies I chose for you guys. And it was recently on one of the, I follow this online review site, High Def Digest, and they had really good things to say about it. And reading just the review they left on it, for the 4K release, the physical 4K release that just came out, I kind of was like, this seems like it'd be up your alley.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give you anything terrible either. So
No, it was definitely a good watch, and I'm surprised I'd never heard of it. Film.
it's
Again,
quite popular. Apparently, it's quite popular. So
yeah, it was a very popular film. My wife had heard of it. She said she'd never seen it, but she had heard but mostly because she's a big Katharine Hepburn fan, so she'd seen a lot of her films, and this one she hadn't.
this is one of her wins, at least. So
yeah, right. So I think she's only won the 2 Oscars. She's been nominated multiple times, but she's won 2, and this was her first one. But again, definitely a film for me. I can only say that I think James could appreciate the acting, but be like, yeah, the story's whatever.
What would you rate it overall?
I gave this 4 stars. I think as a whole, I think it's a solid period film. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty solid. So I'm actually really glad that you liked it. Like I said, I haven't seen it personally, but it was one of those things where, I was like, it's got to be good for him, right, or something.
No, I did enjoy
something
it.
different.
So it was something different. It got me down a rabbit hole to look at some other Katharine Hepburn films. So that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. Especially if you haven't seen a lot of her stuff. And I know, Mikey, you personally have not seen like too many older films, so this is probably like, what is this all about? There is a movie I do want to see with.
Didn't even hear it like he said.
There is a movie I do want to see with Katharine Hepburn too. That's been on my list on Golden Pond. My dad has recommended that one.
I think that's the other one she won the Oscar for.
Did she win it for that one? I have no idea. That's why I'm just.
I believe that's the other one.
The only thing I really know her from is like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. So
yeah, just that one.
Yeah, because every film student has to watch that like 1,000 times.
Right.
So, but cool. I'm glad you liked that, Nabil. That was a solid choice for you, I guess. So I did well. Let's move on now to Mikey's film. For Mikey, I chose the 1980 film Ordinary People.
It's starting all over again. The lying, the covering up, the disappearing for hours. I will not stand for it. I can't stand it. I really can't.
What kind of psychiatrists are you? They all believe in dreams.
I do believe in dreams. Only sometimes I want to know what's happening when you're awake.
I don't want to see any doctors or counselors. This is my family. And if we have problems, then we will solve those problems in the privacy of our own home.
I knew something was wrong even before he tried to kill himself.
I think it is a very private matter.
You never came to the hospital. How do you know about the hospital?
Your mother did come to the hospital, Conrad, and you know that.
I just don't know how to deal with it anymore.
So, Ordinary People is sitting at an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. The synopsis is the accidental death of the older son of an affluent family deeply strains the relationships among the bitter mother, the good-natured father, and the guilt-ridden younger son. This is directed by Robert Redford, which is his directorial debut here. And he also directed A River Runs Through It, 1992, Quiz Show, 1994, Horse Whisperer, 1998, amongst a plethora of films that he's actually directed. So this is written by Alvin Sargent, who wrote What About Bob in 1991. And randomly, he wrote Spider-Man 2 and 3. I just wanted to bring that up. So yeah. This was released on this was released on September 19th, 1980, with a budget of $6.2 million. It made a whopping $90 million. So this was a huge success at the time as well. So this stars Donald Sutherland as Calvin Jarrett, Mary Tyler Moore as Beth Jarrett, Judd Hirsch as Tyrone C. Berger, Timothy Hutton as Conrad Jarrett, Elizabeth McGovern as Janine Pratt, Emmett Walsh as Solan, and Dina Manoff as Karen Aldrich. So, Mikey, I got to ask too with this one. I know this is an older film. I was trying to get you into something a little older too. Have you ever heard of Ordinary People or?
Yeah, I never seen it before. Never heard of it. So it was a brand new movie for me. And
totally fine.
Yeah, a lot of older films. I've been trying to get into a lot of them. I've watched probably 6 or 7 since the beginning of the year. Everything older than the 80s. So
yeah, I remember you
get into a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, which is that makes sense. It's one of these. This is a movie I even discovered myself about a year or two ago. So I hadn't heard of it, but it's definitely something that stood out for me. So, what did you think about the movie overall?
I really liked this movie. I thought it was fantastic. The emotion that all the characters, every single person in this film brings to their performance is really powerful. It feels real, like all the whole family and like just everything they're going through just feels real. And every family member is really just kind of handling the loss that they've had in a different way. And it's just really eye-opening, like how different people can handle things in a different way. And
especially, I would say loss. It's how people deal with loss, I would think, in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just everybody's just so different, but it still feels real. It doesn't feel like it's forced on any time. For Conrad, I mean, man, he's the main character, and dude, he just goes through so much stuff. Like
Yeah.
he is recovering. He's going through, he's seen a psychiatrist, and he's seen those things, and he's trying to get better. And then he just gets pulled down a couple times throughout the movie with different events that happen, and you just feel heartbroken for him. And it's just really powerful. Had a couple really like powerful scenes that I just was like, wow, this is like something that a lot of people could probably relate to. Just people like cracking under the pressure. And there's just how they handle stuff is just unreal, and it was a really good movie, just all around, just great, acting wise and story wise.
Yeah, this is another film that was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, and it won Best Picture, Best Director. Timothy Hutton actually won for Best Supporting Actor. He's actually the youngest person still to ever win the supporting actor when he was 20 years old. So, and I think it shows honestly in this movie. So, and Best Adapted Screenplay too. So. And then Mary Tyler Moore was also nominated, as well as Judd Hirsch was nominated as well for Best Supporting Actor. So this movie absolutely kills in the word section of it all. So you like the performances overall? Did you like how the story kind of unfolded of how, especially I would say it's really about Conrad and his relationship with his parents, Calvin and Beth, and then also his interactions with his psychiatrist, played by Judd Hirsch?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, because I kind of mentioned it before that his relationship to both of his parents and the psychiatrist, they're really different. They unfold in different ways. His mother's really cold to him, really doesn't show that much emotion, right? And his dad is trying to support him, but really doesn't know how. And then his psychiatrist is just trying to be there for him and kind of help him help himself a little bit. So it's really just a lot of dynamics going through. And then, as we said, I mean, Timothy Hutton kills it. So just the way he portrays everything. And then, I mean, he, even like one of his friends, like, commits suicide in the middle of the movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's devastating. Like he goes through so much. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of lows. A lot of lows, this one.
Yeah, they have some really good scenes. There's a scene at the golf course where his parents are talking to each other, and they just kind of unfold a lot of events, kind of spill out some stuff and get really emotional. And I think that scene is like super powerful. I mean, his mom basically breaks, and his dad's kind of sitting there trying to help her out and kind of bringing some light into what she's experiencing, or what maybe the family is experiencing, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was really good.
I unfortunately, like I said, didn't see Nabil's film, but I have seen this one. But this movie still really sticks out to me. So I really liked Donald Sutherland's portrayal here as a dad. He's just really trying really hard to kind of keep his family together, and you really like feel for him because they're still having like these parties and such, and it's just like it's weird, right? Overall,
I feel like he is just kind of along for the ride with his wife, and he really doesn't know like what to do about both his son.
It's a weird situation that happened because it's kind of not really spoiled, but like their other son dies in a boating accident. And it's, Conrad blames himself for the accident, basically. And his mom does too, obviously. So.
And I feel like the dad at least has some of that stuff. You kind of see it. Maybe doesn't blame himself, but you can tell he's hiding some stuff. You can see subtle emotions, and then it kind of unfolds a little bit more as he goes and kind of learns a little bit more about himself, I think. He kind of opens up a little bit more. So I was actually surprised when I looked up after I watched it. I tried to go in as blind as possible. I didn't look at anything beforehand, but I was surprised Donald Sutherland did not get a nomination or did not win for this one, because he does, like you said, a really good job in this movie.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, where it's like, dang, really? Who won that one then, right? Yeah. But you didn't even get nominated, so it's one of those things.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I really like the Judd Hirsch character, too, in this one. It really reminds me a lot of Good Will Hunting, a little bit. How Robin Williams' interactions with Matt Damon, it's very reminiscent almost. But this also came out, 15 years prior? 16 years prior? Maybe 17? I don't know.
And he is like also Conrad's psychiatrist. He really does help the dad out in a main scene too. So it's kind of nice where it's kind of unexpected.
It's just random. You see Emil Hirsch and it's like, and you're like, sorry, Judd Hirsch, not Emil Hirsch. You see Judd Hirsch and you're like, has this guy ever aged? He's been the same age since 1970, man. So, anything else stand out for you in this one, Mikey?
I mean, we already kind of talked about. I think the most powerful scene is the golf scene, and the dad with the psychiatrist. We kind of mentioned that one already. Those two scenes are really stuck with me.
For me too, the ending.
Yeah,
it's really kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's rough, but you see why it happens though. Like you kind of understand what's going on.
You see how people handle their grief, really.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Nabil, have you seen this one?
I did. I saw it once, and it was a long time ago. So I'm remembering as you guys are talking about it, certain scenes that picked up, and I remember it being a very heavy film.
This is definitely a good rewatch one too, Nabil. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it in a while, this is a really solid film. I think I almost gave this one a perfect rating when I saw it originally. So it's part of the Paramount Presents line, so that's why I watched it. But yeah. So Mikey, why do you think I picked this one for you then?
Well, when it was an Oscars challenge and you were giving us movies and I just looked at it and was like, oh, it won 4 Oscars and it was nominated for a bunch of others. So I just assumed you picked it. You might relate a little bit to some of the characters and some of the stuff that you went through as well in the past.
Yeah.
So
yeah, actually, no, you nailed it. Yeah, pretty much. I did that. I wanted to pick an older film for you, but one that I thought was really good. And I don't think this is a movie that is talked about too much anymore. But at the time, obviously, it made a killing. If you look at like the top movies of the year, it's one of the top movies of the year of 1980. So this is back when people had taste in film. And they would watch family dramas and go out in droves to see this and on Golden Bond, apparently the following year. So, and also, yes, I relate because my brother was killed right after I graduated high school. And a lot of the things this family goes through is very reminiscent of things that I've gone through personally myself. So that is one of those things where a lot of it's kind of eerily like, oh, crap, like people deal with depression and the loss and grief in their own different ways. And some people show it more, some people don't. And it's just one of those things, the way of life. It's a terrible feeling. And it's one of those things that everyone eventually will have to go through. Some people have to go through it a little bit sooner than others, unfortunately. And, for me, I was 17, so pretty much same age as this guy that he's doing. So it's one of those things. But I love this movie. So overall, though, what did you think? Would you recommend it to people, Mikey? What was your rating on it?
Definitely recommend it. And I actually gave this one 5 stars. I enjoyed this movie so much. I'm so glad you wanted me to watch this. I've already recommended it to a bunch of people. So this is a really good movie.
Awesome. Yeah, if your parents haven't seen it too, and like I said, I feel like a lot of people would like this movie.
Yeah, I told my parents to watch it. They won't remember, so one day I'll just turn it on for them and walk away, and they'll end up watching it. So
check it out; it's kind of cool. So that is our reviews for now. When Marco does come back, I do have a movie set for him already. I don't know if it'll change by then. 2 years from now, I don't know, guys. I might have a different opinion. I don't know. So you guys tell me. Maybe there'll be a new returns.
Yeah, we'll just wait for him to come back first.
Yeah. Well, this is gonna be weird. Episode 200, you're gonna do your Oscar review. Well, I mean, you do's, right? So, all right, let's go move on into our Voyage into Star Trek with our review of Star Trek Nemesis. But before we do that, of course, we have to go over our behind-the-scenes facts, guys. Star Trek Nemesis now, this is our 10th film in the motion picture events of Star Trek. I don't know if anyone else is getting burned out of Star Trek a little bit, reading-wise, but honestly, it's been kind of fun. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
I'm a fan. I enjoy Star Trek, so
yeah.
I'm actually, I'm like, you know what? I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, as everyone knows, but I don't mind watching one every 2 weeks, Sometimes I'm like, you know what? Let's see what Picard and the crew's up to for this one.
I haven't seen these movies in so long. It's nice to go back and see them again.
Yeah, and honestly, I've only seen them probably once, especially the Next Generation ones. There's no way I probably have seen the original ones probably twice, maybe, as we talked about before, the original crew. But these Next Gen ones, especially like the last 2 we just watched, I feel like these are brand new movies to me. So we do give some background information on the behind the scenes facts, some interesting things. We're going to just jump right into it. This film actually features a young Tom Hardy. You might not know. He didn't bulk up yet in this one, as you guys can probably tell.
He's pretty
Tom Hardy was a relatively unknown actor when he was cast as Shinzon, Producer Rick Berman and director Stuart Baird were impressed by his audition tape, and Patrick Stewart even met with Hardy to discuss the role. However, Hardy later admitted that the film's failure deeply affected him, leading to struggles with self-doubt and substance abuse before making a career comeback. Brett Spiner co-wrote the story, by the way. Data, guys. Brett Spiner, who played Data, co-wrote the story with John Logan and Rick Berman. Spiner felt that Data's arc had run its course and wanted to give the characters a proper send-off. His involvement influenced the major plot points surrounding Data and his sacrifice of the film's climax.
And we'll talk about deleted scenes and character development. Several significant character-driven scenes were cut from the final film. These included a longer wedding sequence for Riker and Troy, a heartwarming moment between Picard and Data, and an emotional speech by Picard at Data's funeral. Some of these scenes were later included as DVD extras, showing a more character-focused version of the story.
What do you think it would have been like the scene where Kirk does his speech for Spock at the funeral?
Yeah, kind of like
just emotional, just like super one-liners too.
But I mean, it would probably be more poetic because Picard is
better. Yeah, I gotta say, just from watching these, Spectre seems like a much better actor.
You're right. Yeah.
Just I don't know if that's a stab at Kirk fans, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Different captains, different styles. That's all we're gonna go with.
Better, different era, better acting.
Different era.
So, yeah.
The film had a difficult production and editing process. Stuart Baird, an experienced editor, but first-time Star Trek director, made several controversial editing choices. The studio also mandated changes, leading to the removal of key emotional moments. Many fans and even cast members felt that these cuts negatively impacted the film's pacing and the emotional weight.
Director Stuart Baird lacked Star Trek knowledge. Baird had no prior experience with Star Trek and reportedly did not understand the franchise's characters or history. He referred to Geordi LaForge as that alien and clashed with the cast over the characterization. LeVar Burton, in particular, was vocal about his frustration with Baird's direction. This was apparently a box office disappointment that led to a 7-year franchise hiatus. Nemesis was the lowest grossing Star Trek film at the time, making only $67 million worldwide on a $60 million budget. The poor performance, combined with declining ratings for Star Trek Enterprise, led to a 7-year hiatus of the franchise until J.J. Abrams rebooted it in 2009.
Without further ado, then, let's get into our review of Star Trek Nemesis.
Our eyes reflect our lives, don't they? I can see as well as you can. I can feel everything you feel. In fact, I can feel exactly what you feel.
He said he's a mirror for me. I need to know where the hell he came from.
The same blood runs through our veins.
It was as if part of me had been stolen.
Star Trek Nemesis. It is sitting at a 38% Rotten Tomato score.
Is that the lowest one?
I think it's the lowest one.
It might be one of the lowest ones, yeah.
At least for the next generation, for sure.
Oh, hands down, yeah.
The Enterprise is diverted to the Romulan homeworld Romulus, supposedly because they want to negotiate a peace treaty. Captain Picard and his crew discover a serious threat to the Federation once Praetor Shinzon plans to attack Earth. As mentioned before, this film was directed by Stuart Baird, who also did 2 excellent films, Executive Decision and U.S. Marshals. Love those movies.
This was the last film he ever did, by the way.
Yeah. And on a high note. It was also written by John Logan, who did Any Given Sunday, Gladiator, and The Last Samurai, as well as The Aviator. And this film was released on December 13th in 2002 and had a budget of $60 million, but only a box office of $67.3 million. This stars returning Next Generation crew Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard, Jonathan Frakes as William T. Riker, Brent Spiner as Data, LeVar Burton as Geordi LaForge, Michael Dorn as Worf, finding a way to get him in these films, Gates McFadden,
so random.
Gates McFadden as Beverly Crusher, Marina Sirtis as Deanna Troi, Tom Hardy comes in as Praetor Shinzon, Ron Perlman plays Riemann Viceroy, and Dina Meyer plays Romulan Commander Donatra.
Did you guys know that's Ron Perlman?
I
kind of had a
this time.
feeling.
The fact, yeah, I didn't realize.
I feel like just because of his because his face, I was like, that kind of looks like Ron Perlman. But I was like, I don't think
he did a lot of these kind of prosthetic because he's a big dude, right? So I guess he did a lot of these prosthetic stuff. I didn't realize how much he was doing these kind of things.
Was this after Hellboy or before Hellboy?
This is probably was before, I think.
Like barely, but like 2004's Hellboy, maybe?
This might have been where they saw him and they're like, you could do Hellboy.
They're like, look at him. He's a freak in this one.
All right. So I'm going to start with you, Mikey. What is your history with the Star Trek Nemesis film?
So I've seen this one once or twice, really long time ago. I actually didn't remember anything that happened to it. I talked with my dad briefly right before I put it on. I was putting it on and he was like kind of walking out the door and he's like, yeah, have you seen this one? I was like, I don't remember it. And he's like, you probably wouldn't remember this one. So he wasn't a big fan of this one either, but yeah, I have seen it a couple times. It's just been a really long time.
Okay. Interesting. What about you, James? What was your history with the film?
Like I said, I've probably seen it once. I actually remember when this came out though. I was like a freshman in high school. So I remember them advertising this a lot. But I mean, I wasn't a Star Trek fan, so I didn't see it, obviously. But
sure.
Outside of that, that's all I remember. I didn't remember a lot. Like I said, I probably just rented it from Hollywood Video when I did my one-time little run through all these.
Dang, not Blockbuster, Hollywood?
No, nice. Why would I do that? Hollywood would have been right down the corner.
That's right down. I did the same. Hollywood Videos.
Yeah, why would I go on this?
Blockbuster was too deep. Okay.
Yeah. You gotta go all the way to Waterman? That's too far.
Yeah, I'm like, no, we're good off that one, dude.
Yeah. I've seen this film so many times. This was
have you?
Full disclosure. This was my favorite Star Trek Nemesis of the Next Generation films. This is my favorite Star Trek film. So watching it again, I had different feelings than I did when I remember. But I've seen this so many. I remember Tom Hardy. I remember the whole clone story. I thought it was all fascinating. I don't know why. It was always just the one that when I would think of the Next Generation films, it was this one and First Contact that were the ones that I like vividly remember.
I always thought of First Contact, like I said. So
yeah,
I only remember the scene. The one scene that stood out to me on this one, when I remember, was when they're on like the little cart thing, the car driving around when they find Before
in the sand,
because it's so like overblown with saturation on how they filmed it. It looks really stupid. That's the one like scene I always remember from this one too. I'm like, oh yeah, the one with the weird sand shit.
Yeah. So James, we'll just go and ask then, what were your thoughts on the movie in general? Like,
did you
like it?
Honestly, it wasn't that bad, man. I don't know why, dude. I actually kind of enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised for a lot of it. It's not perfect, but it is the most, out of all the movies we've seen for the next year, it is the most modern looking out of all of them. Yeah, especially CG wise. I think the CG actually looks pretty good in this film, but it is a bit slow in the middle. There's a lot that kind of they want you to think is a bigger threat, but honestly, it comes down to just two ships fighting each other at the end. Really,
as always, I mean, all these films basically comes down to that, or a small, uneventful fight.
That's the bad thing with these Star Trek films. I think they have a very they're very anticlimactic. So
yeah,
and I would say this one kind of keeps that trend up. But honestly, I was expecting I was coming in pretty low because I was like, oh, this is supposed to be like the worst one, and a lot of fans say this is the worst Star Trek film. But honestly, it wasn't that bad, man. I thought it was okay.
Yeah. How about you, Mikey? What were your thoughts on the overall plot?
Yeah, my dad said it would be forgettable, but I actually kind of like this one. I kind of agree with James. I mean, the beginning's a mess. They go through a lot of stuff really quick.
There's a lot that happens.
But in the middle, it gets really
why is Worf there? Why is Worf there? Because he went for the wedding. That's why.
He gets drunk. Oh. But yeah, it got really interesting in the middle, right? I mean, there's this whole dual storyline with Data and Picard kind of mirroring their storylines with like a clone of some sort, right? And then the end is actually pretty good. Like, I thought the action was decent in the end.
I was too.
I actually like it. I thought it progressed pretty well. Like, the beginning was weak, the middle was okay, and then the ending was pretty good. I actually really enjoyed this one.
Mine was a little opposite. Like, the beginning I thought was pretty strong. The middle for me is where when they add too much subplots, I'm like, I don't think I care about all these.
Yeah.
But the end though, Mike, I agree. I was like, kind of liked it. I won't lie.
Well, that's how I felt about it too. To be honest, it's like I like the beginning because it has everybody together, and this time compared to the last film we saw, where especially with Worf, we're going to keep continuing with him. It's like he just was there. In this case, okay, there's a little bit of a reason. They just were finishing a wedding, and then they were going to get him to his new place.
Even Whoopi Goldberg was there, but she didn't have no lines, right? That got
exactly
cut.
Yeah, there was a few cameos inside there actually, which is cool to see
from the other shows, I think, right? Too.
Yeah. But then we kind of get to this like middle plot. Everything comes together at the end, so I think it ends stronger than how it kind of progresses in the middle. But it does all seem kind of far-reaching. Like, why do we have the subplot with Data? Why is this thing with the Romulans going on, and then plus the, I guess, coup that happened, kind of thing. So it's all a lot of things happening at once. I will say, it's very evident with the Next Generation series and the original Star Trek series. The actors are older, so the action is slower, so you don't, it's just because we can't have them doing too much because of their age, unfortunately. So,
I mean, there's a gunfight, there's a laser fight in the hall. It's literally just a hallway. And I'm like, I don't know if this would have lasted too long if somebody was able-minded. Like, hey, what are we doing, guys?
Exactly.
But at least people got shot, right?
They did.
For the actions.
Yeah,
I mean, people died.
People are dying.
It's like two groups ran into. Oh man, we ran into each other in the hallway. Like, oh, okay, let's just take them out. Like, that's it, huh? That's the big one. Okay.
I think that's a common trope with at least all these original, earlier Star Trek films, is that they I don't know if they're trying to camp it up from the TV show and say like, look, this is how they fight. It's funny, huh? Like a Star Wars reference with the stormtroopers, but it is much slower and just like not as impactful.
Yeah, in some cases. I didn't get that vibe, but
yeah, it might just be because they're older, but it is common. It's weird. Okay, so let's just talk about the general plot. I mean, there's, like we said, there's a lot of middling things. Is there anything specific, like James, that you really felt like stood out for you for this movie?
I mean, it's got to be the Shinzon stuff where he was a clone of Picard because the Romulans before him were going to probably insert him in at some point to infiltrate, the Federation, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Double agent, right?
But then he was abandoned, and then he sided with the Remulans, right?
Yeah.
Which took him in, and then he became like their, I don't know, man.
Ward,
it's
almost,
yeah, kind of, I guess. And so he showed them a way to like, hey, we can take them over, and then we can use this. And he creates that ship, the Scimitar, which has the ability to just kind of eliminate. It's just a badass ship, basically. But I like the whole clone plot, but I felt like they could have done a little more with it. Honestly, they very like, I get it. Like, the only way you can do it is you get a blood fusion from you, Picard. Like, but it's like, okay, I don't know if they were trying to do that. Like, did they have? I know they were planning on another movie after this. I don't know if that was going to be touched upon again ever one day, or although that's the one thing I will talk about, and then later I'll talk about Data a little bit. So,
all right. How about you, Mikey? Anything that really called to you?
The ending, it has a lot of emotional stuff between Data and Picard, and that really kind of stuck out to me. I do echo what James kind of mentioned. I do like the whole Shinzon stuff. I feel like they could have elaborated a little bit more. I didn't really get his like revenge kind of plot. I think they could have like kind of announced that a little bit better, or like kind of explained it a little bit better.
Him, Mikey. That's why.
No, I know, but like it was just like, okay, they abandoned you, like, but you're still alive, like you're still with these people, like you don't have to go across the universe to kill a whole planet of people because they abandoned you. Like, I don't know, I don't think it was
the
enough.
Romulan chick was like, yeah, we probably don't got to do this, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there was some stuff there, but I really liked like what Picard and Shinzon, like their interactions with each other, because I feel like Picard is like pretty smart, is kind of very emotional, right? And I feel like he understands kind of where Shinzon's coming from, so it kind of worked.
Especially when he's like bringing up things like, when I was, they said when I was your age, I was really naive, and he's kind of like pointing that out, like he's like, you don't know everything you think you know.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I like just the emotional stuff at the end with Data. There's a lot of like, sacrifice that goes on from both Picard and Data. And then obviously like the whole emotional stuff that happens after the whole, finale battle kind of stuff's going on. So I just thought that was really kind of touching. And like we kind of mentioned in the trivia section here, is a really good send off for some of the characters here. They didn't have another movie, which I know there was one planned at some point, but
yeah, they scrapped it because they're not bad.
Good. Yeah, it was a good send off for the characters, I thought, at least.
But I guess then technically they lived on through the show. eventually. Picard.
Well, the new show, but that came out 2022, right? It started.
I mean, that came out
a couple years
20
ago.
years
Yeah.
later. We'll catch up in 2 decades.
Right.
Is Worf in that show?
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
he
Tell me he
is.
shows. Tell me he shows up for no reason to. Worf, what are you doing here? I don't know. I'm in a contract.
I mean, I would agree. Honestly, just as a whole, the ending scene probably was the strongest scene for me. Like how that all played out between Data and Picard and Shinzon. Like that whole thing, it was a much more satisfying ending, which is funny to like the other films we've seen where the ending is like, okay, I guess this is the natural conclusion. Yeah, but in this case, it was all middling in the middle, right? This is all middling in the middle, but really got to something that meant something in the end. So I was like, okay, this is good. I will say too, I really like Picard, like his growth. I know that we were talking about how Stuart Baird really didn't have history with Star Trek, but he definitely had I don't know, maybe it was just a writing, but they definitely had something set up properly for Picard's like battle with himself, essentially, with Jinzon, like matching wits. And I know Tom Hardy, obviously, from what he mentioned earlier, did not feel so happy about how things worked out since the box office wasn't great. But I think he did a great job of playing like a younger Picard in the sense of like he's a bit hot-headed, he's egotistical, he's too overly confident, essentially, and thinks that he can just be the best because he thinks he's the smartest person in the room, which maybe he is, but not when you're battling yourself in the future who has more experience. And so I liked that dynamic. And so like seeing Picard even work it out himself, saying he thinks, Shinzon thinks I'm going to do this, but I already know I would have if I was you now, but I'm actually going to be, I have experience now. So I like that dynamic. There was a lot of good character growth of him having self-reflection and then being self-reflection, then like being able to idolize like who he thought he was going to be and where he was, and seeing that in Shinzon and being able to say like, I've grown so much from that, so that I think came off really well. Any other thoughts on your end from like just the guys in general on Picard or the character? Like, do you think that him in this film, because obviously all the films really focus on him as a character, as a captain, they really try to flesh out Picard more in these films over even the TV show. But do you guys feel like this stands out more as a character growth, or did you feel that there was, maybe it was done better when he was thinking of his French children for some reason in Generations?
No, I like what they did in this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean him and Shinzon and just the conversations they have and how he's just like almost curious on like how he became the way he was from the same person. Like he's him, but with a different experience of his past, and he's almost like curious on like why he's like that. And how he didn't become that by making some choices he did in his past. So it was kind of interesting. Like he could have been that person, but he's not. And I feel like it kind of had this emotional connection with Shinzon, even though they were adversaries, which was kind of crazy.
He's like, "Why are you wearing this dress thing? You look ridiculous."
I mean, I was like, poor Picard lost his hair really young, apparently. Shinzon's just like,
I see that too. I was like, it looks a little more intense on his.
Yeah,
because he always has a little like kind of stubble, right?
Right.
So, I really like Data in this movie. This is probably the first one, or maybe I just got used to him after 4 movies.
He's not as annoying anymore.
I get it now. He's funny, but he's like more of a hero. He's kind of more of a hero in this one, honestly.
Yeah,
he is. Yeah,
and the funny part,
he was way too goofy. Insurrection, way too goofy, and this one they really kind of found the right balance for it finally, and. I like even the trick out where you think he's the before guy, right? The other version. He's like, yeah, Shinzo's like, I brought him here. And then you find out like, no, that's just Data just swapped places with him because they look exactly the same. How convenient, right? So I really like that scene. And then he saves him. I was like, that's cool. And then him and Geordi, like he knows like he's about to like probably never come back. That was a good, nice little scene.
That was a good little connection too, because they've always, they're both engineers,
like
so they always talk to each other for a while. Yeah.
And Geordi always works on him too, like he helps him.
All right.
Once again, Geordi just the alien apparently.
Apparently, poor guy.
Dude, I was like, dude, you know it's bad when the guy from Reading Rainbow's getting pissed off at the director. Right?
What do you think about Tom Hardy's performance as Shinzo? Like, did you like that character? Did you like Tom Hardy?
He's not quite there yet for me. He was only like 24, I think, or 25 when he did this. Really young. He's not the Tom Hardy we know that became a method actor. Apparently,
Definitely not.
You know?
I still think it was strong,
he's not
though.
bad, though. He's not bad. I generally thought he was a good, like, for their look, because nowadays they would have probably tried to just do like they would use Tom Hardy, but then did put stuff on him and de-aged him to look like a younger Patrick Stewart, pretty much. So I still appreciate that they tried to just get someone and they went for the look, and you know he's like dying and stuff. It's kind of gross, and
over time you get to see him. Yeah,
it's just getting like worse every time you see him. You're like, dude, your veins are popping out, dude. So, or whatever that nasty stuff is, but. It worked for me, actually, man. Like I said, I didn't think it was because I just heard so much negative stuff. This is the one movie I was really fearing watching coming in because, like, the 10th one was supposed to be terrible, you know? But like I said, I was genuinely surprised, like, by Tom Hardy. I was like, you know what? You can tell that, like, he was really giving it his all and working with what he had for this one. So, because, like, you can blame it on poor writing or poor direction, but I don't know, man. It worked for me.
Yeah, I think he was definitely trying to be kind of portray his intensity with the whole thing, like the feeling that was, I need to connect with this guy and I also need to take his blood so I can live. So
I mean, compared to the last bad dude played by Murray in the Insurrection, it was like a complete like flip of like a different like acting too, which I appreciated. So
I actually I didn't know that people thought this was the worst one. Number 9 was much worse than this, in my opinion.
I didn't like Insurrection as much. Yeah.
I don't like Insurrection at all. So
yeah. So, anybody else stand out? What about Riker and Troy's whole C plot? I guess they were kind of the comic relief. Married. I think their whole relationship here, kind of. I mean, Troy did have a bit more. Deanna Troi had some more connection because she was being like mind melding with
dude.
Viceroy.
Do they ever explain why she can like reverse it? Does she have abilities or something?
Yeah,
she does have abilities.
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know that because when she's
psychic
doing that,
in the show. Yeah,
I was like, how is she mind battling Ron Perlman right now? Right. Ron Perlman's like, no.
Yeah, she definitely has psychic abilities in the TV show. But they just, the 4 movies that we've seen of them.
She's never shown any abilities, dude.
At all, so it could be very off-putting for anybody who's like, what is this about?
Yeah, so for me, as someone that's not watched the show, I guess she's done in the show, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but because she's supposed to be very spiritual too. Like she's the kind of counselor for everybody there. So
yeah, and I'm assuming her Riker and her that was based off of the last movie where they kind of rekindled their relationship, right?
All right.
But that's more of a payoff even from the show too, where they probably had a romance.
Yeah.
So this was like a payoff to everybody to see them finally like getting married, I guess, right?
Yeah,
just kind of nice.
And that's why I feel about.
I was gonna say that's why Worf's there too. So.
Yeah.
Worf does nothing in this movie.
That's what I think is the funniest thing is that Worf is a Klingon and he's supposed to be like the badass fighter here, and they have a straight up battle on the ship, and
he's not even there, dude.
He's not even there. Like what the hell? Like this is when you use him.
They send Riker and like a bunch of randos, like, yeah, go finish that guy off. And Riker's out there fighting on a bridge, by the way, against Ron Perlman's character.
Well,
and that's how he
Riker
dies.
is personal, right? Because Shinzon hit on his wife.
Yeah, he kind of did some pretty messed up stuff.
Yeah, but he dies by happenstance still because of what's going on in the ship. Like it's not even like an earned kill, to be honest.
Yeah, the bridge collapses. He grabs it, and then Riker's like, "Get off me!" And he kicks him. And he's like, "Yeah!"
Right,
like Emperor Palpatine falling into Death Star 2. Ah! So,
what about the thoughts, James? You mentioned this earlier. You liked this kind of the CG in this film. What did you think about the scene of it? Yeah,
because Insurrection looks so bad. We talked about this. It looked terrible compared to this movie. Then we get this movie. You're like, okay, at least the scenes where they're in space look good, actually. Because by this time, episode 1 had already come out,
right?
And maybe episode 2 had just come out.
I think it was
2 had just
2
come
years
out
in between, right? Or is it every year?
It's 3 years. They had used as a gap: 99, 2002, 2005.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is the same year. I mean, God, but if you compared it to Attack of the Clones, you'd be like, this looks terrible. But I mean, just think about it now. Now, if you think about it, you're like,
Star Trek.
oh
Lower
no,
budget.
that's Camino. Camino looks really good with the rain, and then you get to this, and you're like, oh, that's it. But going just Star Trek films, we don't have to bring up the far superior sci-fi one at the time, at least. But like for the most part, it looked way better than Insurrection. So I actually liked it. There's a lot of cool little scenes, especially at the end where they're tracking down the scimitar, and it's just like it's cloaked, and then it's the Enterprise, and they have the Romulan warbird trying to take it down. It goes on a little too long, but you can admit, like, you're like, we get it. Like you're right, like you're like, okay, you're just gonna crash it in again. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say the crash looks kind of amazing though.
Yeah, it does look
look
good.
good.
Looks
I
really
thought that
good.
was a smart maneuver too. I forgot that scene happened. I was like, oh yeah, he does something crazy.
He's like, he's like ram him, and then even Shinzon's like, what's he doing? And that shit
I love
shows
how
like
it's like on screen, and he's like, "Oh wait, we can't do
there's
that."
no screen. Yeah, it blew out. That's
Yeah,
why.
no
open
screen.
a channel. Open a channel. I don't know how to unscreen it anymore.
Yeah.
Any other action scenes stand out for you guys in this film?
I kind of mentioned it before. I just like that there's just cannon fodder. People just get lasered out. So, but
There's a lot of scenes like that, though. Especially
just
tell you the
in
hallway
space.
scene.
the only bad one was really the one in the sand. The sand one wasn't that great.
It just
but other
doesn't.
than
It's
that-
not filmed well. That's why they were trying to go for like a gritty look because they are fighting the Romulan people at that time. So that's what they're fighting. It actually is kind of cool. And then, but it's just the way it's shot with like the oversaturation of the oranges. It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's a director's choice, I guess. So, how about just in general? Then, did you guys feel that the story flowed? I know we talked about like it kind of middling in the middle, but did you feel that this story kind of worked out better from a time perspective compared to the other films, or would you have liked to see it a bit tighter?
I would have liked
there's
it could have been like 20 minutes shorter.
I heard that we kind of mentioned there's a different cut. There's supposed to be like 25 minutes or so of extra footage that was cut off. Yeah, more, but it was all kind of cut. So I'm wondering,
It's all character stuff, right?
yeah, would you
Yeah,
guys
that's what
want to
I'm
see like I don't know if I'd want to see a director's cut, but like an editor's cut or something, like an ultimate edition or something like that?
No,
film?
not really. This is
No?
not one of those films I'd probably revisit too often.
I mean, we've had 4 films with the same characters. We don't need more character stuff than what they had in here. So I think we're fine with what we
True.
have.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We know them enough, is what I'm hearing. I was like, we get it.
Before we do give over, I do want to ask you guys between the two sets of films so far, right? We had the original cast, the Next Generation. Which one do you prefer from the movie wise, motion picture wise, so far?
For me, as far as the movies are concerned, I actually prefer watching these, the original Star Trek. I think that those characters have a stronger connection. And I think that's because those bonds formed throughout the movie versus the Next Generation, the bonds formed through the TV show. And then they made a movie that just kind of continued that on. So I liked, like, after rewatching these, I think the Star Trek original ones were better.
I agree.
Character-wise. Yeah.
I agree too.
I think I really enjoyed more percentage of the Next Generation.
Really?
than I
Did you?
did
Okay.
From the original crew. Like there's some, I mean, the Wrath of Khan is like by far, in my opinion, like one of the best Star Trek movies. But other than that, I like First Contact. I like this one a lot. So these ones kind of stick out to me. And I personally, I liked Picard as a captain more than I liked Kirk. Nothing wrong with Kirk, but I just happen to like Picard's style.
You just don't like Kirk yelling at the heavens. Just
God.
I mean, for me though, The Voyage Home is such a good movie. It really just trumps it out for me. As much as I like First Contact, but Voyage Home is chef's kiss. Probably still my favorite Star Trek movie.
I think Picard, I agree with you in that part, Mikey. Like, Picard to me is the better
He's a
captain
stronger character overall.
Yeah,
I agree.
Stronger character. Much more fleshed out. I just liked the films from like a film to film comparison. I think the original Star Trek one's just the characters.
I would see myself watching those more than these, I think.
Yeah.
Especially like the Spock trilogy. If you want to look at like the 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So for me though, it's just like the original ones are just such a roller coaster. Like there's really good ones and there's really bad ones. And there's like nothing really in between that's just like mediocre. I think a lot of them are just really good or really bad. So I don't get that roller coaster. There's only one kind of bad one in the Next Generation one, but there's less movies too. So it's kind of, so it's
We got to find a way to bring him back, guys. We're just going to go look for him.
If you talk about next gen, though, I would say like Insurrection's not. I didn't really like Generations.
Insurrection's by far the worst one. Yeah.
I only didn't like Generations because I kind of liked how it ended with Kirk. It
was such an unnecessary send off. Yeah. Like they're like, hey, how about we do it again with only 3 of them, right?
Right.
And then look, Kirk's fighting on a bridge too again. We got a lot of these little bridges. Anyways, let's get back to this overall rating here.
Yeah. So let's talk about our review, our overall scores. I'm gonna start with you, Mikey. What would you rate this film, and would you recommend it?
Yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. I liked it enough to want to watch it again. With my dad to see if he changes his mind about it. And so, yeah, I would recommend people watch this one.
Yeah. How about you, James?
I would give this one 3 stars. I didn't think it was as bad as the critics are getting it. It's far from perfect, but I thought it was a step up from the last film.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you, Mikey. I gave it 3.5 stars as well. I still like the film, but watching it again, there's a bit of some plot issues, but I feel like the action pays off a lot of the film compared to the other one, so it was an enjoyable one.
Thank you, guys. That's the end of the podcast. Look at that. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Mikey, let them know how they can reach us.
You can listen and follow us on your preferred podcast platform. We are everywhere. For a convenient link to all our social media channels, you can visit linktree/moviepalspod. That is linktr.ee/moviepalspod. And remember to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Plus, catch us on TikTok for sneak peeks of upcoming episodes and more exciting movie content. Follow us at MoviePalsPod.
And make sure to tune in for our next episode, podcast episode number 195, where we will be reviewing 1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante, newly released in 4K, as well as continuing our voyage into the Star Trek movie franchise with 2009's Star Trek movie.
Into the Kelvin timeline we go. Thank you, Nabil. And until next time, this is James,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
Have a great one.